Hello, yet another project from Upwork. Here I found one where we were supposed to manipulate some data so that it will show the city name of a set amount of zip codes. And there is this Loom video that the guy put with this. I'm going to show you what he wanted from it.
And we need to have each one of these zip codes removing the duplicate. So there's always one that's got the asterisks and then the one that doesn't. So we need to remove the one that doesn't. And then each one of the ones that has the asterisks in this one row should individually have its own row itself. So this would be duplicated for 85002, and then there'd be another row for 85003, and so on. And this would be for each one of these. So there should only be one zip code in this column instead of multiple ones delimited by semicolon. There should only be one zip code, and then each one should be its own representation. The tax name should be the same for each one of these in this line. So this would be the 8.6 would be for each one of these numbers, and then 6.1 would be for each one of these numbers, and so on. We also need it to be automated. So anytime there's a zip code, it looks at an outside source and puts the city name in properly here. And that goes through all of this all the way down to Wisconsin. So there's not that many. It's just having to go through this data. That's it. All right.
So I tried a couple of different things in order to make it work. The first thing I tried to do was make it so that I could just use regular functions in order to do it. The problem I kept running into was either A, the data was too long, or B, there was just too many maps and too many extra rows. Because one thing I tried to do was use collective maps to bundle all the data together, then put the city name in, and then extrapolate all of the data to create all of the rows. That was great and all, but the problem was, in order to get these city names, I had to go through what was known as Zippopotamus, is the website I used, because it didn't require me registering or anything like that, and it didn't seem like it had any sort of timeout to it. Although, if you do send too many requests, it won't work for a little while. So, due to that, and because I don't know exactly how he plans on using this data, or if he's going to do some sort of payload system or something like that, I didn't want the system to fail at any time. So instead of just populating all of the data all at once, I decided to do something a little bit different. So here is the actual data here. This is the input data that he either imports or whatever else. Instead, since I couldn't use maps or regular functions, I had to go ahead and use some AppScript code in order to parse the data. And then I used this other library that I found on GitHub to import the JSON from the API for the city name. And then I created the output. Now the output does not have the city name built in. I intentionally removed that because I planned on putting it in later. This allowed me to rip everything out and put everything where it was supposed to be. But I do want to say a couple of things. First off, inside of his data, he did have erroneous data, and I don't know if he did this intentionally or not, but he did have erroneous data, and I just wanted to talk about how I handled it. So first off, this row, which I can actually show you in his original data, since it was copied, there was a row of zip codes that were all stapled together. There were no asterisks, no semicolons, no anything. And so in order to fix that, I had to do a quick scratch sheet that split this up in groups of 5 and then put it back in, and then I copied that data back into here. And the way I did that was I have this scratch paper over here that is just kind of sitting here where that was, well, it's kind of broken now, but that was the original data. That would have been this. And then I used a make array to kind of restitch everything back together, copied it and pasted it back. But since I fixed it, now it's showing the fixed data. So it doesn't work now. But that's how I was able to take care of that. The next thing was I found that zip codes were different in different spots. So in New York, specifically around E267, which is around here, there are 3-digit zip codes, and I understand why that happened. Usually systems do not keep extra zeros before numbers, so those got removed. Came to my surprise when I realized that there were 3-digit zip codes. To that note though, there's also 4-digit zip codes for the same reason. There were also no zip codes. I honestly don't know why they're in here if there's no zip codes, but Wisconsin has no zip codes, Pennsylvania has no zip codes. So because of that, in my new system, there is no Wisconsin. And on that other point, there is no Pennsylvania either. Next thing, you notice how inside the data there is asterisk, then no asterisk, asterisk, then no asterisk, which was very nice because that means everything was grouped in groups of 2. Perfect. Lovely. Until it wasn't, which in A258, let me see if I can just hop there. Yep, here we go. They're reversed. That caused a little bit of a headache for a second, but only for a second. Once I was able to filter out, it just changed how I did the filtering process, but that filtering process is what made this a little bit difficult because I had to flip-flop a lot of stuff in order to make sure that worked consistently. So I just wanted to bring that up, that sometimes the data was not consistent or it was erroneous, and I'm not sure if he meant to have it that way just to trip people up, but that was also the case. So what did my solution turn into? Well, you kind of already saw it. This is what it turned into. What I decided to do instead of documenting every single city throughout and then just wearing out an API in order to make that work, the API is only getting called here. And so once you choose a state, and then once you choose a zip code, it will update it then. Only one call, and only one call when you need the call. Now, I understand that this may not be exactly what they wanted, but if I had decided to do it the other way, there would have been a lot of times you would have came to the data and it was not working. Or the next time you want to import new data, because keep in mind, this is not all 50 states, and he's going to have to come back for it was WD, wasn't it? Wisconsin and Pennsylvania and whatever other states I might have missed. When he comes back with that payload data, now it's got to run through all of them, and there's a possibility it could crash. And I also ran into a join issue where it was way too big for me to do any sort of full-scale join for all of the data all at once, because the limit for join is 5,000 or 10,000 characters or something like that. Ran into that. That was interesting. So I had to do it this way. This way is a lot simpler, far fewer calls, and it won't be called as frequently as opposed to other things. So if you would like to see something like this, you can contact me on SHK on Upwork or Upwork Skelly on YouTube. Okay, bye.